Donovan.
All right, let's get into it. It's the Donovan Live Postgame Show on a Wednesday night alongside Jimmy Donovan. I'm Dave DeNatale. Happy to have everybody with us. Boy, a couple things I want to get with you here on the show tonight. Was driving into work and heard a lot of Browns conversation on sports talk radio and hype and things like that.
Imagine that.
I know, right? You know, right? I can't imagine that. We'll get to that because I want to talk to you about Browns and expectations. But in the last half hour or so, we've been kind of monitoring from afar, because again, we like to do it from the sidelines, what's been happening between the Lakers and Ty Lue, the Cavs' former head coach, former Laker player. Looked like it was going to be a done deal for Ty Lue to become the Lakers' head coach. But over the last couple of hours, some things have happened in breakdowns, length of contract, amount of money, and the apparent condition that Lue coached with Jason Kidd on his staff, and apparently this thing isn't going to happen. The Lakers have moved on.
Well, it looked like it was done. I mean, it really did. I mean, Ty had a birthday late last week. There was a birthday cake with a Laker colors and Laker logo on it, and it looked like it was a match made in sort of heaven.
Yes.
Because of the Cavalier connection. And Ty Lue was a Laker, at one point. So the Lakers know him a great deal, and of course, that's a big part of their whole deal, that Laker family.
Yes.
I mean, they've tried it. I don't know how it's worked, but they have tried to keep that going. With Jeannie Buss being the head of the organization. I don't think you can. I think when you start telling people who's going to be on their staff, I mean, I'm sure the money issue is a very personal issue, and he does have a championship, and he was to the finals a couple of times beyond the championship. The other thing that I'm wondering, Dino, is that I would think it's a hard question to ask him in an interview, but certainly appropriate. Ty Lue, what happened in Cleveland? Why were you away from the team? What happened with your health? Are we going to walk down that aisle again? And are we going to have that situation here? Because it's everything's exposed at that point in time. And Ty Lue was really kind of a physical wreck at one point. And I don't know that he was an emotional wreck, but he was a physical wreck. Yeah. That he was unhealthy. He had to step away from the team. A couple of times he had to get off the bench during games and go into the locker room. And that, so that comes up early in the interview. Are you physically healthy? What happened? Is this something that we're going to revisit again? But I think when you start matchmaking for a staff, we want you to have Jason Kidd on the staff. I mean, as you pointed to, this is what he was part of that equation in Cleveland. David Blatt was hired as the coach, but Ty Lue became his assistant coach. And I don't think David Blatt would have hired Ty Lue to be his assistant, but the Cavs wanted him there and wanted David Blatt to assume Ty Lue on his staff, and he ended up taking his job. Jason Kidd's a different story now. I mean, if I'm Ty Lue, I would say, well, why don't you just hire Jason Kidd?
Right. Guy who has NBA head coaching experience. There's a mutual respect and big time respect between Kidd and LeBron James. I mean, LeBron always wanted Kidd to come beyond the Cavaliers back in the day or what have you. So there's always been a respect there. So, I guess I'd be with the Ty Lue camp too. Just hire Jason Kidd. So you have that going on. And I guess I would understand also from Ty Lue's perspective, hey, listen, you're only going to give me the amount of time that LeBron is still here, 3 years. You're not going to give me any time to rebuild if LeBron leaves, which is exactly the problem that he experienced here with the Cavs. And he didn't want to go down that rabbit hole again without any kind of assurance that he's going to be able to stick around in LA for an aftermath of LeBron. Yeah.
Here's the other thing I wonder about that on two fronts. Number one, shouldn't he be away from LeBron? I mean, shouldn't he? I mean, he went through everything with LeBron. He won with LeBron. He lost with LeBron. He had to put up with all of the weird periods of time, because remember now, you just don't get LeBron. Okay, you get all of his friends with him.
You get the business.
You get the business. You get the firm. You get Rich Paul. You get Maverick Carter. You get Randy Mims. You get all of that with you, and so it's not just LeBron. And he's walked in those shoes. Okay, where he has been LeBron's coach, and that's a lot. So I would advise him maybe be a coach. Get away from LeBron, okay? Number two is I'm wondering, in the long run, when he wants 5 years and they're only offering 3, isn't it that you're just protecting yourself to get paid longer?
Right.
You
Ask Mike Brown about that.
Mike Brown's still getting paid.
Right, exactly.
Mike Brown is getting paid to be Steve Kerr's top assistant with a Cavs check coming to him all the time.
That's it.
So I'm wondering about that because that's the protection these guys get, is that if you get a 5-year contract and look at what happened to him this year. What did he last? 6 games? 7 games,
and he was out.
And he was out. I mean, he's getting paid. He's getting, he's getting rest. He's getting his life back together. He's getting Cleveland and the Cavaliers situation out of his body and out of his mind. And he's moving on. But he's got the protection of a contract sitting there. I wonder the 2 points I bring up. Number one, isn't it time to coach? Be a coach where you're not LeBron's coach. And number 2, touche. You want 5 years, you're going to say to them, hey, if you're going to fire me once LeBron leaves, you're going to pay me 2 extra years.
That's right. Yeah. So right now, anyway, it looks like the Lakers
Who is going to get the job?
I don't know.
Mo Williams, is he out of it? Maurice,
Monty Williams.
Yeah,
Monty Williams is out, and so is Ty Lue. So
it sounds like Jason Kidd would be the next guy.
I would think so. Yeah. I would think so. So I mean, it's just interesting to watch as the Cavaliers interviewed another Spurs assistant today, and. Jimmy, we talked about it when the season ended. I mean, the lottery is next week. I think the Cavs are very comfortable right now interviewing candidates, but not being impatient with what they want to do.
And I think that's a two-sided story because I also think that if I was a guy, I'm going to use the Tom Izzo strategy here when he interviewed with the Cavaliers to become the head coach. Now, it wasn't waiting on the draft lottery. It was waiting on a much bigger decision, and that was, is LeBron James going to come back to the team? The answer was no, he wasn't at that time, and Izzo went, I'm going to go back to Michigan State, where I'm a hero back there. I think that the two-sidedness of it is the Cavs can wait, and I think candidates can wait too. Although they're interviewing a core of assistants that are waiting to get that head coaching opportunity, so they're going to take any job, I think.
Right.
And
Torrey Messina was who they talked to today, and that's the second Spurs coach they talked to. I mean, Torrey Messina will be there a week from now, I would think. 2 weeks
now he's a different kind of guy. He's 59 years old.
Yes.
He's coached internationally, at least in like the World Championship, the Olympic aspect. He's been the Italian national coach, but he's been on that Spurs bench since 2014 with Greg Popovich. You learn a lot there. There are a lot of guys that have sat alongside him that have just rubbed elbows with him, and just being around him, you just suck up so much really good coaching knowledge that you're well on your way to becoming a head coach. It's the best thing. It's the best line to have on your resume. I was an assistant with Greg Popovich.
Right.
You never get the San Antonio job, but you get any other job that's out there.
So we're watching that as we go on. But
I am watching tonight, Dino.
What are you watching tonight?
I am watching, and more importantly, the aftermath. I am thinking tonight the Celtics go out of the playoffs.
Yes.
It's Game 5 in Milwaukee. They won the first game by 22 points on a Sunday afternoon in Milwaukee. They haven't won since.
Yeah,
Kyrie Irving's been terrible. 7 for 22 the other night, with another bizarre post-game interview session with the media, who asked him, what's wrong with the shooting? Do you think, what did you think? And he said, you know what, I was 7 for 22, but I should have taken 30 shots. I'm that great a shooter. 7 for 22. If they lose, and a lot of people think they're going out tonight, what happens next? I don't think there's a chance that he stays in Boston. Now the Nets are being mentioned as a candidate, and maybe a hot candidate to land him, where, as a lot of people thought, it's automatically he's going to go to the Knicks.
Right.
Is he going to follow somebody, or is he going to be his own person and go to another team? But this is a guy that may have 4 or 5 teams that he plays for by the end of his career.
Yes.
He may be one of those guys that he may just have 4 or 5 teams that he plays. He may be like Dwight Howard.
Right.
Dwight Howard ended up playing everywhere.
You leave the team that drafted you.
Yeah.
And
now the difference being he won a championship.
Howard went to the finals but couldn't win the big one. But you're right. Yeah.
But I mean, Dwight Howard ended up everywhere. He ended up everywhere. I mean, gosh, he had a new uniform on every week.
I mean, ideally, if he could team up with Kevin Durant somewhere, that would be the best thing. I think that would be the best thing for him. But I don't know I think he's still in that mindset that he wants to be the one. He wants to be the number one, not somebody's sidekick or third option.
Well, he has he has really torpedoed the good ship Celtic this year, because this was supposed to be their year with LeBron out of the East and gone out west to the Lakers. The East was right there for the picking for them, and I know Milwaukee's got a great player and a really good chemistry and a heck of a coach. I mean, he does a great. Brad Stevens gets a lot of acclaim for what he's done with the Celtics, but this guy Budenholzer has just done an amazing job, and he waited for that job.
Yep.
And he's done an amazing job. He's done exactly what I think a lot of people thought he would do when he had that kind of talent around him. It's just amazing the Celtics have not been even close to what everybody thought they were going to be all year long. Yeah. All year long. Gordon Hayward's not the player that they thought he was going to be. Now he comes back after just an awful accident that occurred here in Cleveland when he broke everything. His leg, his ankle, his knee, everything, his leg. He has shown signs of coming back, but Tatum, the young kid out of Duke, had a bad second year. Yeah. But a lot of people say it's because of Kyrie Irving.
Right.
Irving's a pain in the neck.
Right.
And that's sugarcoating it.
Right. He's torpedoed everything. It'd be interesting, Jimmy, if they get into that third quarter and they're trailing and they're struggling. I mean, to see if they pack it in for the season and go 1-2-3 Cancun. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I'll absolutely be curious to watch that tonight and see.
Well, they were booed off the floor the other night in Boston.
Yeah.
They were booed off the floor because they were so pathetic in the second half of that game. They had a 2-point lead at halftime, and they just got blown out in the second half. And they made a little run at the end of the game, but it was with 3 minutes to go, and they were down by double digits, and they ended up losing. They lost both games in Boston. And now they're down 3-1. Something's wrong with them.
Yes.
Okay, and a lot of people think it's Kyrie Irving. And really, there's been a little bit of shine taken off Brad Stevens' reputation that he didn't really do enough this year, that he didn't take hold of the Kyrie Irving
Because he finally had, as you said, you have an Eastern Conference that's wide open, and you have all your players together. And Hayward is not 100%, but you had them all together. And this is the best you could do? Maybe a second-round bouncing by Milwaukee?
Yeah.
I mean, after taking the Cavaliers without Kyrie to the limit last year.
With 4 minutes to go, they're up 5 in that game. In Game 7 in Boston, and they had a bad shooting night. But, I mean, nobody's played well. And nobody's played well with him, with Kyrie Irving. Horford is a real pro, a veteran pro, but Tatum has declined. Hayward is fighting through trying to just be a player again. Marcus Smart hasn't been the same. Jaylen Brown's been unhappy with his role. They're a mess. They really are a mess. And I don't know if that old Celtic mystique can get them back, because I don't think they are. They're not a Celtic team.
No, and I don't think they can win 2 in Milwaukee. I think they can. I mean, they could maybe win it tonight, get it back for a Game 6, but to win 3 in a row. Yeah.
So in other words, Larry Bird and Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish ain't walking
through that door.
No. Right. Now the other game tonight is fascinating. It's a great series, as expected. It's really like a championship series, the Rockets and the Warriors. And now it's 2-2.
Yep.
And Houston's really playing well again. But can they win?
Can they win at the Oracle?
Can they win in Oracle tonight? And is Steph Curry going to get going?
Right.
He's been off a little bit. They have been very, very frustrated. Now they're frustrated with the officiating.
Right.
And it's really bothering them. Klay Thompson, he's a mess. He's whining on every call. That's going to be a great game tonight. I think it should be a great game, because whoever gets the win tonight, I mean, they're 1 win away from winning the series, but there could be a changing of the guard in the West if Golden State gets in trouble tonight. I don't know if Golden State goes back there and wins.
And that's the thing. If Golden State gets eliminated, especially in this round, then you're all of a sudden it's what happens with Durant, what happens with Klay Thompson. Is it is that dynasty going to be broken up?
Yeah, I really don't know. They have been leaking throughout the year, but a lot of people thought it was just boredom.
Right.
They know exactly what they need to do to get to the finals, win the finals. So in the regular season, if they lose by 30 points, and they lost by 30 points a couple of times this year, and they lost at home bad a couple of times. The Celtics ripped them at home one time. It's okay because they're just bored. But, I mean, this is a big game tonight. Now, this is the type of game they win.
Yes. And they hardly ever lose games like this. Yeah. But, we'll see. All right, so while that's going on, I was driving into work today, listening to Cleveland Sports Talk and listening to Bull and Fox on the Fan, and they were having a spirited debate about the amount of hype that is getting thrust on the Browns. For instance, by the way, congrats, tip of the cap to our guy Joe Thomas.
Yeah.
Going to be working now for the NFL Network. You'll see him pregame and postgame on Thursday Night Football. You'll see him on a lot of their shows on the weekends and during the week. I think it's great. I think we always knew Joe was going to get this gig.
Good for him, yeah.
But Joe played the schedule game for the Browns yesterday and picked them to go 10-6. Odell Beckham at that Met Gala was talking about the Browns being a dynasty, wanting to see the Browns turn into the Patriots and be a dynasty. And the thrust of it is there too much pressure, expectations, etc., being thrust on this Cleveland Browns team that admittedly only won 7 games last year, knowing the fact that they're going to be a year better with reinforcements like Beckham, but is there too much being put on this team before we even get to training camp?
Possibly, but it's I look at the team. I think you have to get away from the hype and take a look at the team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are they better than the team that walked off the field in Baltimore on the last Sunday of the regular season? Yes. They're dramatically better. So that was a 7-win team, 7-8-1. And, whether or not they should have won that last game or not, it doesn't matter now. But they are a much better team. Now, I think that because of their story, I think that's where you're getting the hype. I mean, it's a Horatio Alger story of rags to riches, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what it is. 1-31, an 0-16 season, and now, an incremental, but then a leap. I mean, it wasn't just 4 wins, it was 7 wins, and it could have easily been more. But I think when you take a look at what they have when they walked off the field in Baltimore and what they've added, I mean, I think if by football terms, they're a better football team. They didn't stay stagnant.
Right.
They didn't suffer losses. Is Jamie Collins a loss? No, I don't think
really.
so. He's not even signed yet.
No.
He's without a team. I don't think that they lost people. I don't think people retired.
No.
I think that they added. I think they had a diabolically big trade with Odell Beckham Jr. I think they did very well in free agency. And then the natural maturation of these young stars. Plus, if there's anything that I think is genuine and kind of fits them is, you got to wonder about the coach. Okay?
Well, yes.
And that's it. But I think the talent is there. And now, how does he handle this? Because he hasn't been a head coach before at any level. And how is he going to handle it? But I think they surrounded him with such a great staff. And that's the thing that takes down a lot of these first-time head coaches is, number one, they don't go into a situation like he's walking into. They're going into a wreck normally.
Right.
That's why they got the job.
That's right.
Number two is they have a heck of a time trying to find guys to join them on their staff. Their biggest improvement is always from the first year into the second year, because that particular coach can sift out the coaches that he works well with and that were effective and say, okay, now I got to really go and get a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator. I'll tell you what, Freddie's got a great staff. Yeah. I mean, he's got a great offensive line coach.
And nobody was he didn't get Ty Lue, like we just talked about at the start of the show with the Lakers trying to force Jason Kidd on Ty Lue.
Right.
Nobody was forced on Freddie. I mean, he wanted Steve Wilks. He went out and got Steve Wilks to coach the defense, somebody who has head coaching experience, but he wasn't thrown. It wasn't like you have to get this guy or you have to get this offensive coordinator or this special teams coach.
Right.
I mean, he had the freedom and the trust to go. I mean, I'm sure John Dorsey and Elliott Wolf and Alonzo Highsmith and company may have made recommendations or may have said, hey, why don't you give this guy a call? But nobody was forced on him.
No, I don't think so. And I think the only one that, I don't think it was forced on him. I think it was just a great hire. Is they got the Green Bay offensive line coach, Campen, and he's right up there, tops in the NFL with what he was able to do. Every year they had devastating injuries in Green Bay on the offensive line, losing tackles and centers and guards and having to protect Aaron Rodgers and Favre before that. Okay, and this guy did an amazing job. I mean, they really, when you had the kind of offense they had, and it was playing at that level, and the offensive line had those kind of injuries, he did an amazing job, and I think that was a big hire.
Yeah.
Now, there was a Green Bay influence there. There's no doubt about it, but I don't think Freddie, I think he welcomed that.
Yes,
So,
yes.
I mean, I think that, even in special teams, they've improved. I mean, they're a better team. They're going to be coached better. Their special teams, that was a wreck last year.
Yes.
It's amazing it didn't cost them more severely than it did, and it cost them pretty severely. So I think that that's the concern right now. But the other interesting thing is, the other cover that they made was that he decided, he being Kitchens, that he's going to call his own plays. And now he's a head coach. That's a lot of responsibility. But Todd Monken is here.
Yes.
They were able to get him to come here from a really effective Tampa Bay offense. And I know you say, Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay's problems were defensively and with the behavior of their quarterback.
Yes.
Okay? Not with the structure of their offense. And believe me, I saw it up close and personal in Tampa, and they can go up and down the field with a lot of people. That was a great hire because there's protection there.
Right.
If things are overwhelming to him in the head coaching department, with all of the responsibilities that he'll have added to his plate that he didn't have, certainly as the running backs coach and then as the offensive coordinator, he's got a guy with him that can really run the show.
Take some of that strain off of him.
So the hype, if you look at it talent-wise, the hype is applicable. If you look at it that it can become a distraction, but are they going to let it become a distraction?
Yeah, because I think there's two parts to that. I don't have a problem with fans feeling like really confident. Terry just messaged us, and you can always message us here on Facebook Live. 10-6 is a pretty good prediction. Terry, I like that. I like fans having confidence. I don't have a problem with that. So you have that, and then but you have Freddie Kitchens, who when he spoke to the media, I think it was Friday, and even dropped an expletive, but he said, look, we didn't win anything last year. Last year, he goes, we're not repeating last year. Last year is over. We were 7-8-1. I'm focused on this year and getting this team into OTAs, minicamp, training camp, and turning them into a winner. But there's no hype with that. I mean, Freddie Kitchens seems very down to earth about how he's going to approach the Browns.
Yeah. When I was with him last week and we did our extended interview with him, he gave a great answer when I said, when that trade was completed and you put Odell Beckham Jr. with what you already had, and Landry and Callaway and Chubb and Njoku and Mayfield leading the way and all of that, and he said, I'll tell you what that is right now. They're all just really good football players. But they're going to have to come together.
Yes.
They're going to have to sacrifice stats. They're going to have to, he said, in case in point, Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry sacrificed stats last year, and definitely in the second half of the season, because suddenly Callaway was getting more, and and Perriman was getting plays.
More. Yeah.
And they discovered Nick Chubb, and and things like that, and Njoku was more effective. Okay, so in that, Landry wasn't the go-to guy like he was in Miami, where he had over 100 catches, and early in the season where they were just trying to get him the ball a lot. But he said, ask Jarvis, he was a much happier guy at the end of the year because they were winning at the end of the year. And that's what they're going to have to do. When they walk in the door, when it's really for real time, probably July, when they walk in for training camp, they're going to have to say, listen, the number of catches, the number of yards, I can give up some of that as long as the number of wins is the most important number.
Yeah, it's all, and that's the most important thing. And, I mean, Freddie Kitchens is a guy. Let's think about him for a second. I mean, he, as a quarterback at Alabama, he did not put up big numbers. He allowed his, I remember, because I called one of his games. I mean, it was letting the defense and their running game at Alabama take care of things. And you weren't going to win any Heisman trophies, but those Tide teams were pretty good. Not the Saban teams we've seen now, but they're pretty good. He learned that with Gene Stallings, and I think I think just what you're talking about, that's where it goes back even maybe further than that. Growing up in Alabama, as he's always talked about, being that blue collar kid growing up and
washing cars
and
listening to the Alabama game.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's I think the guys that they've brought into this football team, I think they can understand that. I think they can relate to it. I think Odell Beckham is going to relate to that because I think he wants to win. I think he didn't like losing last year with the Giants. I think he wants to win.
Right. Here's the other thing, and again, I wish people could see that long-form interview with because he really was great with Freddie Kitchens. He also said this: the other important thing about these guys is none of them have ever won a championship. Okay, a big-time championship. I know Baker won Big 12 titles and all that kind of stuff, but remember Baker lost in the playoffs a couple of times. Yeah. Okay, Landry got to the playoffs with the Dolphins that one year where Adam Gase got them into the playoffs, but they bowed out right away in Pittsburgh. Okay, Odell Beckham Jr. was on that 11-5 team with the Giants, but they went to Green Bay and it just didn't happen. They lost. Okay, so none of them have won championships. Nick Chubb lost. In the national championship game. Yeah. I mean, he lost in devastating fashion.
Yeah, in overtime. Yeah.
To Alabama. And Njoku didn't play really in big games in Miami at that time. So none of them have really won, big-time championships, and now's the time to do it. Yeah. But they're going to have to do it together. Yeah. It won't be just Mayfield, and it won't be just OBJ. Right. It's going to be the two of them, and the five of them, and and then the defense.
And then Miles
Garrett hasn't won anything.
Denzel Ward, Miles Garrett, all those guys. I mean, they got to learn, and that's what we always talked about. Why it's so important for the Browns to get off to a quick start, so there aren't those whispers going on out there. Because that's the thing. I mean, it's a long season. It's 16 games, but I'd sure like the Browns to be coming home and playing that Sunday night game at 2-0 as opposed to 0-2 or 1-1, and where everybody's groaning a little bit because they didn't beat the Jets or they didn't beat the Titans. I mean, but that's all part of the process, right?
If they come out of the first month of the schedule and they're okay, look out. Because 10 wins is very attainable. Yeah. So I don't know how Joe played the schedule game.
He had them winning He had them 6-6 going into December, and then winning their last 4 games, being the Bengals twice, the Ravens once, and the Cardinals. That's what Jimmy's talking about. That the end of the season
sets up
right now really nicely for the Browns.
It really does. So if they're in the hunt, and they come out of the tunnel a little bit there, and they're ready to go. Come December, look out, because they could be, that's the time to play well. Obviously, that's when New England turns it on. Right in December. The old adage is you never beat the Patriots in Foxborough in December. Nope. I was witness to that one time when it looked like the Browns had them beat, and they didn't beat them. They were right there, and you're right to that. So, and that's the way it goes. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, I think that's the model, and Joe's right about that. Yeah. I don't think 10-6 is way out there.
No, I don't either. I think, and frankly, I think if they are 10-6, then they're going to win I think they'll win the division, and I think they'll have I don't know if they'll get a first-round bye, but if they're 10-6, they're hosting a playoff game, I think, at First Energy Stadium. Wow. Which, again, we talked about how awesome that would be. Right. But just, I guess, to put a bow on it, this goes back to when I did radio sports talk. I never want to tell fans how to react to things. I want them to react and then us to be able to talk about it. Right. In this case, I think fans, if you want to be excited about the Browns and you want to be talking about, playoffs and thinking about the Super Bowl down the line, I think you should.
Yeah. I always judge how Cleveland's feeling by when you drive around and you see the gear people are wearing. And I notice a lot of people wearing Browns gear. Me too. Even over at Progressive Field, where a lot of people have an Indians shirt on or a Lindor jersey or something like that. I notice a lot of Browns gear. And it was like that at this time of the year, certainly during the LeBron runs. I mean, everybody had a Cavs shirt on. I mean, you had whatever the Q, when it was the Q, whatever the Q was giving away at that particular home game, was it a gold shirt? Was it
a white shirt, a black, if it was a blackout,
Right, but you notice a lot of people wearing Brown stuff. You go to a grocery store now, people have the Browns hats on. Right. They have, that's just the start of it. Yeah, and it will be overwhelming if it gets off to the start that a lot of people hope they get off to.
I mean, I see on social media, pictures of Beckham jerseys, Mayfield jerseys, and, the Color Rush jerseys. And, people are buying into this. Right. And I think that's great.
Yep.
I don't ever want to tell people don't buy into it because this has the makings to be a fun fall. Jimmy, as always, thank you, my friend.
Thank
we'll
you.
See everybody back here tomorrow, the Donovan Live Postgame Show, right here on WKYC's Facebook Live and YouTube. That's it.
All right.